Oh, it's,
Yeah.
And why, in case you couldn't, I remember.
And he's alive yet, so.
what did that taste like? Is it- What do you?
Very good.
Put a little salt on it,
Is
leave
it
it
like,
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
salt,
butter or what?
pepper.
you know, sure.
Doesn't sound good.
They call it
We
schmuck.
play baseball in the summertime, when we get bats that the Atlanta Lakes team is broken, and take them up and play in the village park. For high school sports, we had 3 sports. The girls had no sports. The boys had 3: football, basketball, and track. The coach ran us from here down to the village park for football practice, because there was no field, there was a small field next to the library there. And, not room for a football game, but he would run us down there with a car by and say, come on, you guys, move, and we'd run back after and take our showers. We had a pageant in the park in 1936 for the 100th anniversary of Pewaukee. My mother was a 1890s swimming, had a swimming suit from 1890s, and they paddled her across the park in a canoe. We practiced in the old Athenaeum, and that's the building next to Smokey's Bait Shop. That old stone building, it was a good swimming place when I was a kid.
There was a pool in that building?
The Athenaeum.
Inside the
No,
building?
no, there wasn't a pool. You swam in the lake.
You swam in the lake?
Yeah, we swam in the lake.
Okay.
You say after the you come up with a place to get dressed then?
Family car we had in 1936 was the Hudson. We had 10 in the family all together, and we all piled into that car. They said there was so much room between the front and the back seats, we'd set a chair there like this. And 2 of the kids sat on each side, and my brother Don always had to sit where my dad could belt him when he was back home. He was always in the closest chair. My dad was president of the school board, and in 1952, which was after the Depression, of course, they realigned school districts, and the school board at the time thought they'd rather stay small. They could have taken in the whole town of Pewaukee at that time, but they decided they'd rather stay small, so that's why we have a very small district, but I like it that way. So I've lived here all my life, and I'm very happy here.
Nice. Or don't you want to?
I'm 87. I was in the Army down in the war in the Philippines when the war was ending. I was heading for Europe, and it ended there, and I was in the train when Roosevelt died. So then they sent us west and spent 26 days on the ocean before we got to the Philippines. Then the war ended on the day before my birthday, and of course everybody celebrated, went up to Japan. So luckily I missed combat.
Huh. Wow.
That's it.
Yeah.
Was there a, I want to go back to your farming that you're talking about. Was there a cheese factory then in town or somewhere, a butter, or somewhere?
It was north of here, you know, where the town of Lisbon Fire Department is.
Yep.
Well, when you go a little bit west of those stoplights, and then right on that curve where the stoplights are, there's a cheese factory.
Okay.
They used to build them every 6 miles because a farmer could milk his cows and take his wagon and the milk, and it took them till noon to get to the cheese factory. And of course they were 3-mile trips. So they built them so that farmers could get there and back and get back to their work.
Sure.
So there was a job. There was a cheese factory on, right over here. On Clark Street and
Right
the
on the
corner where,
corner of Clark and
yeah,
Oh, really?
East Wisconsin.
that was, I don't know, that closed sometime in the thirties, I guess, before I was aware of it.
I think Penny and Al ran government in the village for a while, too, the two of them. Didn't you?
Well, that was after the week.
Penny ran it all.
I'm not that old. I'm 85 years old, and I was born in 1929. My brother always said that I was the cause of the Great Depression. But living in the big city was different from living in a small town. Although I have been out here for 65 years, I have been in the same house for 65 years. I intend to be there until they carry me out. I'm not going anywhere. But my memory, I was quite small, but I do have memories of the Depression. My dad did not have any kind of employment for 3 years, but they were very proud people. They never went on the county. They spent all their life savings, whatever they had, not to go on the county. And we had a huge garden, and my grandma and grandpa had a garden, and my mother too would can hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of quarts of stuff, and we ate good because she canned so much stuff. But I can remember one time my father came out because a relative of one of my uncles lived here in Pewaukee, and they heard that the mushrooms were good. So they went out and picked mushrooms, and there were so many mushrooms that my dad, after filling all the baskets and boxes and stuff that he had brought, took his jacket off, tied the neck closed, tied the sleeves closed, and filled the jacket with mushrooms. And they were all canned. He also went fishing. Everything he caught, right down to these little things like that, the bones were so soft you could eat them. But everything was canned. You did not waste anything. And my folks never owned their own home, and we rented a house on what is now 26th and Medford Avenue near Fond du Lac. Really bad neighborhood now, but then it was nice. And our landlord was a Jewish man who was very, very kind to us. They were very strict Jews and followed all the Jewish religious laws. And he owned a bakery on about 52nd and Center Street, if anybody is familiar with Milwaukee. And because he produced food, apparently, I don't know enough about the Jewish laws, but he was allowed to have his bakery open until 11 o'clock on Saturday morning. And then he told us that if we would come up at 11 o'clock to the bakery, they would give us whatever was left. And so we would walk from 26th and Medford Avenue up to 52nd and Center, which was probably a good 3 miles. And I was maybe 4 or 5 years old. And they would give us all the bakery. We'd load our wagon, take it back home, and again, they're talking about eating the old bread. We ate old bread. My mom would take it and sprinkle water on it and put it in a bag and put it in the oven. That was the way she freshened it, if she could. And that's a trick I still use. It works. You don't have to leave it in the oven very long. But anyway, he didn't work for 3 years, so finally he got a job cleaning up in a butcher shop. And butcher shops back then were not like the meat markets now. They had sawdust on the floor and there weren't all the health rules and stuff. So I guess it was kind of messy. He never got paid in money. He got paid in whatever meat was left at the end of the week. And I will never, ever forget, most of the time he got paid in lamb. And I've never figured out whether lamb was so expensive that the butchers had to take a certain quantity in order to get the other meat, or whether people didn't buy it. But we didn't get choice lamb, we got the mutton. And my mother was a gem. She made lamb stew, she made lamb soup, anything she could do. And I swore that when I grew up, I was never going to eat lamb. Well, now I go into the supermarkets and I look, and loin lamb chops are $20 a pound. But it was an entirely different life. Al talks about his family. I unfortunately only had a brother, but families were much, much closer. We revered our parents, our grandparents. Brothers and sisters were friends. And I remember now just talking about Mr. Cohen, who owned the bakery shop. One time he came to collect the rent and he gave me a nickel. And you would have thought he gave me the world. I mean, it was just, we didn't own a car until long after the Depression was over. My maiden name is Pabst. And one thing I do have to say is, after Prohibition was over, Fred Pabst gave his relatives jobs in the brewery. So my dad finally got a full-time, full-paying job. But other than that, you made, Christmas time came, you had a doll. Well, you didn't get a new doll, you might get new clothes for the doll, if you were really lucky. But it was just, everybody was poor, so you really didn't know you were poor.
That's right. That's right.
So-
That's true.
That's it.